Welcome to Soul Awakening Solutions, the podcast where we offer tips and tools, spiritual guidance, and energy healing to empower you on your soul awakening journey. Today, depending on what time, it's dark out here, so it's definitely tonight for me. I have a guest. So today's guest is Miss Healing Codes, and she is on Spotify. She's a healer and has been working with me and walking with me on this journey for several years now. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's so exciting to have you here and to have you sharing your journey with us. So, would you like to tell our listeners a little bit about how you found yourself on this soul awakening journey?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. So I won't be able to share everything. And as with anyone's story, you'll never know the ins and outs and all the nuances. So I think that's important to say first. Like, this is just a snippet of a larger, broader, full life that I've lived. But for me, I grew up with a mom who was very spiritual, but it was just her own thing. She never encouraged anyone to look into things or pressured anyone in any way. She just did it for herself. And she was trained in Reiki. She's a Reiki master. And then she was very connected to the energy of the angels. She has like angel cards everywhere. So I grew up with them around, but I never felt connected in that sense. And I actually was very against and afraid of anything spiritual. And I actively called myself an atheist, and I was very adamant about not believing in something greater than myself for a long time. That being said, my mom would always tell stories about how when I was little, I thought that I could control the wind, and I saw little stars twinkling in my bedroom that I told my mom about, and I would see little lights twinkling. So there were things that I was maybe connecting to but didn't realize what they
That
were. Yeah.
that's so interesting because my mom as well was very deeply spiritual, and even though she was connected to a religion, she didn't force it on any of us.
Yeah.
But she also introduced me to the angels. And that was my deepest connection, still remain to this day, with the angelic realm. And she always said that small children were talking to the angels. So when they were doing this baby talk babble that nobody understood, and they were talking to invisible friends, my mom would say, "Oh, they're talking to the angels." So I guess your mom encouraged you to recognize that maybe you were seeing angels and connecting with angels in those little sparks of light.
Yeah, and even if she didn't explicitly lay it out for me, she never made me feel like what I was experiencing wasn't real. She was very open. And so maybe we didn't have any words for it or we didn't put any labels on it, but it was like, okay, she's just seeing little twinkly lights, or she feels like she can connect to the wind. And that's that. I believe her. And so I think that open environment was very helpful for when I did start to open back up to the spiritual side of life. And I say open back up because I really believe for myself that I came in highly spiritual and connected to all sorts of things that I probably can't even remember. And then life had a way of kind of turning me away from that.
Absolutely. That's so true too. I recognize you said she was really open and you didn't label it and it wasn't shut down. So that's really empowering. I have so many students who come in who had somebody tell them it wasn't real. So having that space to create that portal for you to open back up, because I recognize you said you considered yourself an atheist. And I was blessed with a father who claimed to be an atheist and a mother who was highly spiritual, which awakened my active questioning mind, which gave me the ability to take a deep dive into exploring all sorts of things. But
Right.
you said you started to open up, and what was it that brought you to a place where you started to open up?
Yeah. I think for me, it was through a lot of physical pain and illness. I was very sick. I struggled with chronic illness from COVID and then having long COVID, and then a lot of other health issues popped up along the way. And in that place where I was struggling with my physical body in a way that I never had before, I started to open up to the things that we can't see. And part of it really came through feeling connected with my ancestors and my grandpa in particular. So a lot of times you'll hear that people something will happen and it will kind of shift their life, whether it's spiritually or in any way. And for me, I was struggling with my health and starting to become a little more open to things like crystals. And I went to a few Reiki sessions and I was getting different types of energy healing for my own physical, emotional healing journey. And I was opened up to feeling connected with my grandpa in part through Reiki. My mom did Reiki for me, and I felt his presence come in really strongly for me. And that was the first time that I had experienced something like that and acknowledged that it was real rather than questioning myself or being afraid, because it can be very overwhelming. And then the second piece with that was I was in the forest where my grandpa used to spend a lot of time when he was alive, and I was with my family, and it was the winter, and there were ladybugs all over on this fallen tree that my grandpa used to sit on in the forest. And I saw the ladybugs, and it was strange because it was winter and it was cold, and there was this really special energy when I saw the ladybugs. And then I was like, okay, fast forward a couple weeks, I'm in a bookstore with a friend of mine, and she points at this book, and it's called Signs by Laura Lynn Jackson. She looks at me and she says, I really feel like you would like this book. So I buy it, I read it, and it's all about signs that loved ones or people you knew and connected with can send to you when they've passed and when they're no longer with us in the physical. And there was a whole chapter on ladybugs. And so when I read that chapter, something clicked and something in my heart opened. And I felt this reassurance that inklings and nudges that I've had, feelings, whether physical, emotional, mental, are real, and that other people are writing books about them or speaking on podcasts about them. And I just hadn't yet been exposed to those parts of our world.
Yeah.
So that really kind of set me on this journey.
Yeah, so you talk a lot about your mom and your grandfather. I'm wondering, you said you had experienced long COVID, but we met, your mother and yourself came to the course. I think it was during the shutdown. We met through Insight Timer, where you now have your own teacher page there, and you're offering meditations there and offering healing and wisdom and guidance yourself. But back up a little bit, because you started out saying your grandfather, the experience with your grandfather, is that what led you and your mother to come and take some of the empowerment courses with Soul Awakening Solutions?
Yeah, I think the experience with my grandfather opened me back up to my own spiritual side. And then my mom and I were really able to connect on that. And that's her father, right? And then also, she has her own spiritual side that in some ways had fallen asleep a little bit as well. So that was waking up and just becoming stronger. And so we were doing all sorts of different types of healing work together, just conversations as well, pulling cards, things like that. And then I was on Insight Timer. A friend of mine had recommended to me Insight Timer for meditation, and you were doing your lives, and I started attending the lives, and the meditations plus the connection with angel energy really resonated with me and my mom. And then after going to more lives and listening to your meditations, I felt that for me, this was a great environment to learn from. Like, I could feel that I resonated with the way that you were teaching, and also the energies that you were connected to. And I think everyone is connected to different things, and you might go through different paths in different parts of your journey as well. So that's how I found Soul Awakening Solutions and did the courses as well through that.
I love that you say your mom and you were brought together by her father. That's like such a confirmation that you've come here to do that ancestral healing. And I know that we've done some ancestral healing work together, but you're now offering this healing energy on Spotify as well, right? You have your own podcast, and I suspect that this will be on your podcast as well as on mine. And so tell us a little bit about the energy healing work that you're doing on Insight Timer and on Spotify and on your own platforms.
Yeah. So the energy work and the meditations that I have been recording and putting on Insight Timer and Spotify and eventually YouTube as well are meditations that I record with the intention that anyone who listens to them is able to use it in the way that's best for them. So when I first came into the spiritual world, there are some pockets of the spiritual world that can sometimes mimic more organized religion, where it's more prescriptive and people are suggesting you do certain things or you approach meditation, for instance, in a certain way. And through some of those experiences, I really felt strongly and feel strongly that everyone's journey is their own and that they should be empowered to have ownership over that, the same way we have ownership over our own lives and our decisions and our emotions. It's the same with anything spiritual. And so all of the meditations that I put out pull in the Reiki energy. Sometimes I connect with the Archangel energy. I'm also very connected to starseed energy and healing codes, healing light codes. And I sometimes am channeling in the meditations as well. So connecting to specifically starseed type energy that's beyond myself and bringing those messages in a way that's, understandable for us all humans. And so the meditations are just an extension of the healing work that I've done. And I'm at a point now where I can offer the healing that I'm receiving, really, that comes from my higher self or from the other energies that I mentioned, to other people. And so it's a lot about taking what you need from that. And if it doesn't resonate, then it doesn't resonate. And then that's maybe not the right time or the right meditation for you. So there's a very clear delineation between my own healing journey and everyone else who's listening to the meditations, for instance.
Absolutely. We're all channels of that healing energy, and those healing codes are written in our energetic bodies. I
Yeah.
always say Reiki is actually a like the codes, all of the codes themselves are like opening a valve. So each one opens another little valve to another set of energy codes or energy channels. You are a Reiki practitioner, an Angel Reiki and an Usui Reiki practitioner, correct?
Yes, I am. And with that piece around everyone bringing their own energy and codes and healing to it, it's just so beautiful to me because two people can have a completely different experience listening to the same meditation, and the way that both of those people can bring in their own experiences and their own healing energy is just so powerful, because then we're not waiting for a healer or a guru to come and fix things for us. We know that we have the ability to make the decisions that we need for ourselves. And I think there's a great place for healers and teachers, but it also is important to have that agency and empowerment when working with healers.
Absolutely. I think the first thing I ever tell any of my clients when I'm doing any coaching or any teaching is that my goal is that they won't need me.
Right.
So yeah, because that's what empowerment is about. I'm a
Yeah.
guide, and I can guide you to your own tools to remember. So you've often mentioned tonight about waking up.
Yeah.
Really, it's like waking up and then remembering the dream that is your soul,
Yeah.
and remembering all of those gifts and all of those abilities and all of that energy. And I love that you offer your meditations in a sense that people can use them so that they're healing themselves.
Yeah.
They're calling in that energy, and you're the facilitator, the guide through that healing journey, as opposed to the person carrying them up the mountain. You're just the guide to show them the path so that they can awaken their own selves.
Yeah. I almost think about it in terms of being similar to group fitness classes. When you go to a group fitness class, there's the teacher who is leading it and showing some of the movements. They're changing the music. They might set an energy for the room. But if I go to a group fitness class, I have to lift the weights. I have to do the squats. I have to keep pushing myself. And I like that metaphor because sometimes when we are operating more in the spiritual realm, there's so much happening. It can be very easy to lose yourself a little bit in it. And I think it's important to stay grounded in your own energy as well.
Absolutely. And I love that metaphor, because the teacher, I teach yoga, and as a yoga teacher, my goal is to make sure that the students aren't injuring themselves, because I teach I teach beginners. So I set the intention to help them find the right form. And that's the same thing when we're doing this energy healing work. We can overdo it, just like with fitness.
Yeah.
We can overdo it, and we can go to too many healers or try to do too much healing too fast. So allowing that it comes in exactly what's needed for you. I love that you set that intention.
Yeah. And I think it can be liberating too, where in a lot of areas of our lives in this world, there's often a set of rules or a prescription around how to do things. And of all places, the spiritual realm and anything related to that can be a place where you get to really drive that and you get to listen to your own soul and your own wisdom.
Absolutely. A spiritual awakening, or I like to say a soul awakening, and I think they're a little bit different. A spiritual awakening really isn't awakening all the spirits outside of us.
No.
Friends who say they're looking for God, or they found God, or they found divine source. Really, we're looking for that spirit, that divine source, that divine spark within us, our
Yeah.
own soul. That's what we're waking up, is our own spirit. So I love that analogy, that this is a time where we are healing ourselves, and we're calling the energy through ourselves, and we're just being supporters and guides for those people who come to us for that assistance.
Yeah. I just got a notification that there's only a minute left on this Zoom. So if you want to pause the
Okay, so we're
yeah.
gonna just have to say that's as long as we have.
Yeah.
I had it saying 10 minutes, but thank you so much. Miss Healing Codes, if you had one thing, one takeaway that you would leave with our listeners, what would that be?
It would be to trust yourself in whatever journey you're in, even if you're listening to this and you feel not connected to anything spiritual, angels, crystals seem completely out there and woo woo. Maybe that's exactly where you're supposed to be at in your journey. Like the period of time where I felt not connected to anything outside of myself had its own purpose, and I wouldn't trade that period for anything. And I think that it's really powerful to let your journey play out on the timing that it's meant to play out and to just trust that. And 5 years from now, you might listen back to this and it might take on a completely different meaning. And that's beautiful.
That's beautiful. Trust yourself. Thank you, Miss Healing Codes. This is Susan and Miss Healing Codes with Soul Awakening Solutions. And we thank you for listening. We invite you to follow our podcasts, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, to follow us on Spotify and on Insight Timer for more energy healing, wisdom, and guidance. Thank you, and I hope you all have an amazing angel blessed rest of your day.